Hey Eagles fans, I'm Thomas Mott. Welcome into the Eagles Report, and today, let's take a look at the three most likely players the Eagles could trade away from their current roster as we get closer to the NFL free agency and the NFL draft. Before we go, if any of these players, if you agree that they should be traded, give me a thumbs up to help the YouTube algorithm, and also subscribe as we are approaching 6,000 subscribers here on the fastest growing Eagles channel on YouTube. All right, without further ado, let's go ahead and jump right in. All right, let's go ahead and start with one that many people are hinting at, but not necessarily diving into and really being like, yes, you got to trade him. That'd be the cornerback Sidney Jones. Now, you remember, a couple years ago, 2017, whenever the draft was in Philadelphia, the Eagles, in the second round, picked Sidney Jones to thunderous applause. I mean, I was ecstatic. I thought for sure we'd just gotten the steal of the draft. You got to remember, he was considered a first-round talent and then tore his Achilles pre-draft, didn't play the entire year, then came back in 2018 as a rookie, and since then, just hasn't looked that great. I mean, overall, Sidney Jones has looked undersized. I thought he'd be more of a slot guy. He's played a lot in the slot, a lot on the outside, and he's been beat and abused more often than not. Go back and throw the Green Bay film on from earlier this year when he was one-on-one against Davante Adams. Davante Adams had a field day against both him and Avonte Maddox. It's never really turned out for Sidney Jones. He has good ball skills, but tackling and speed have just kind of been deficient for him, a guy that you thought would be good at tackling and have some decent speed, and for whatever reason, he's never really been a preferred option for defensive coordinator Jim Schwartz, and so it just doesn't feel like he's a long-term option for Philadelphia, especially with the trade rumors or the free agency rumors about getting a Chris Harris Jr. or Byron Jones or James Bradbury, whoever else you want to get at cornerback. So I think that Douglas, while he could be supposedly this little, slot, but also kind of filling on the outside. He's cheap. You could keep him. But if a team would go ahead and make a decent deal for Sidney Jones, I would not be surprised to see the young cornerback go ahead and get moved. Because again, when you underachieve at cornerback, especially in the Eagles secondary, which has really had a big microphone on big microscope on the cornerback play, you think back the past couple of years, all we talk about with the defense really is how bad the secondary has been, and obviously you put the film on, and Sidney Jones is one of the main reasons why the Eagles secondary was so bad last year, besides injuries. If you're not bringing back Darby, not bringing back Mills, yet you do go out and sign some free agent cornerbacks, do not be surprised if you see Sidney Jones be traded before the NFL draft. Moving on, how about Rasul Douglas, who I thought would be a steal out of West Virginia. It's supposed to be DBU besides LSU, right? Kind of differs between on Big 12 versus SEC. Rasul Douglas was big, he was lanky, and I thought it would be a great in press coverage. And again, a guy who has shown flashes, but never really lived up to his full potential where the Eagles took him just a couple of years ago in the NFL draft. You think back to the game against Amari Cooper where he got absolutely abused two seasons ago, that overtime game, he had the tip ball, and then it was taken in the end zone by Amari Cooper. Again, Douglas has filled in at times. He's been injured at times, but it's just not played up to his level of skill that we need them to play at corner, especially in a league with all these star wide receivers that we're having to guard right now in Philadelphia. I mean, you go to the NFC, you got Julio Jones, Odell Beckham Jr. has left from your division, but now Amari Cooper sits there. They're probably going to re-sign him. It's just a lot of people you got to go ahead and prepare for, and Jones and Rasul Douglas have both not been good at all in terms of trying to be decent cornerbacks for the Philadelphia Eagles. I really think they will probably end up keeping one of the two, whether it's Douglas or Sidney Jones. They'll probably try and keep one. They might look to trade one or the other, but they'll keep one because they understand that if they're going to bring in a cornerback, they're probably only going to get one. Like we talked about this, Byron Jones is most likely the corner the Eagles are going to go ahead and try and get in free agency, although it is rumored that the New York Giants are going to try to swoop in and do a bidding war because the Giants have a ton of money and they need a cornerback as well. And we have talked about the Eagles signing two cornerbacks because there were reports from ESPN that you want Chris Harris Jr. or James Bradbury plus Byron Jones, but odds are you only get one of them, and if the one is Byron Jones, then you might be able to kind of squeak in a cheaper cornerback on the other side, like a Douglas or a Sidney Jones or Avonte Maddox. But maybe what the Eagles do and what maybe is best for them at corner is to go ahead and keep a guy like Jalen Mills, who you drafted in the 6th round out of LSU and who's played really, really well, was the starting cornerback on our Super Bowl squad a couple of years ago. You go Mills on one side, you go Byron Jones, that is, on the other, and then, of course, you have Jenkins and McLeod in the fullback there in terms of, in the all the way back, I should say, in terms of being the safeties for our Philadelphia Eagles. Those are the first two, I think, that make a lot of sense. And again, this has both been reported by The Athletic, and they're talking about trade options for the Philadelphia Eagles. So I want to bring these guys up to you right now. The final one obviously, is Alshon Jeffery, who many people consider a goner. I have considered a goner. I think that the Eagles could legitimately cut him despite the $26 million in dead cap money it would cost to do so because of how much of a locker room cancer he has just absolutely been in terms of the rumors of being critical of Carson Wentz. So you look at it, he makes $11.5 million in base salary in 2020. It's all guaranteed because of Howie Roseman restructuring his deal in the offseason this past year. If they sold low, they could probably get rid of his contract, but if it's selling high, getting a lot back for Alshon Jeffery, again, with the whole CBA and the post-June 1st trade deadline, all that sort of mess, it just creates a very hard problem for our Eagles to go ahead and try and move off of Alshon Jeffery. Now, could there be a team like a Colts who have a ton of money, or a Bucks who have a ton of money, or the Jets who have a lot of money, who would give us a 5th-round draft pick just to take his salary, kind of unload his salary, much like Houston did with Brock Osweiler whenever Denver traded him away? I mean, maybe, but I just feel like it's either cut or bust right now for Alshon Jeffery in terms of a possible trade target out of Philadelphia, trying to just create some cap space and free up some money for our Philadelphia Eagles. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comment section down below. Out of these three, who is the one that you really want to see traded? Who is the most likely, you think, to be traded as well? Can you think of another trade example for our Philadelphia Eagles? Maybe a Rodney McLeod is what I'm thinking of right now, because the Eagles could draft Grant Delpit at 21 overall. Maybe J.J. Arcega-Whiteside if you think you're going to get enough wide receivers in free agency in the draft, although it's hard to believe that anyone would give us a lot for a second-year wide receiver who basically did nothing this past year in his rookie year out of Stanford. So we try to look at the guys that the Eagles could theoretically trade and trade for. It just gets kind of a shortened list here because most of the guys they have in their squad they like they're not going to trade Fletcher Cox, they're not going to trade Brandon Graham or Derek Barnett. The guys that they are going to trade are the two corners and then probably Alshon Jeffery if they are able to. We'll have to wait and see what happens with that over the upcoming days and weeks. Hopefully, though, this is the big hope, they're able to kind of bolster in terms of the secondary and bolster the wide receiver core as we expect them to do this offseason, which would mean I think the Eagles are geared up for a very strong run at a Super Bowl in 2021 as long as you make the necessary steps. And we talked about this, right? Got to get better at wide receiver, whether that includes keeping Jeffery and just drafting and signing two guys in the offseason. You got to get better at cornerback. You can argue you got to get better at offensive line because we don't know what's happening with Andre Dillard and Jason Peters and all that sort of mess that's happened the past couple of weeks in terms of, are we going to trade Andre Dillard? Oh, no, now we're going to go ahead and let Jason Peters walk in free agency. Like, that's been a mess, too, so maybe you need maybe you need to go ahead and get draft an offensive lineman. So it's going to be an interesting offseason for our Eagles, but I wanted to go ahead and show you guys who are some trade candidates on our roster, and the three that make the most sense, as we said, are Sidney Jones, Rasul Douglas, and of course Alshon Jeffery, who I think is one that we've got to find a way to get rid of and get off of. I just don't know how we're going to do it with his $11.5 million in guaranteed money going into 2020. Thanks a lot, Howie Roseman, for giving him that money this past offseason. You have created a monster that you cannot get rid of, right? That's the problem right now with our Philadelphia Eagles. What are you going to do? All right, before we end, sure to subscribe to the Eagles Report. I would greatly appreciate it as we're approaching 6,000 subs here on the channel. We also have an official Twitter and Facebook page, the community page you guys to go ahead and interact with there. We do a ton of stuff on both those platforms. Links are in the description. Maybe just look up on Twitter, Eagles Report. It's the best way to do it as well. Also follow me on Twitter at Real Thomas Mott whenever you're doing all of that at the same time. Plenty more content in the upcoming days and weeks. Thumbs up if you guys like this video. And again, be sure to subscribe down below because we got a lot upcoming in terms of getting you guys ready for free agency and getting you guys ready for the NFL draft. So stay tuned for that. That way you are notified whenever the Eagles Report drops a brand new video. All the time we have for a day. For the Eagles Report, I'm Thomas Mott, signing off. Enjoy the rest of your day. Did you like that video? Thanks for watching, but why don't you click this video right here, because we did it just a couple of days ago, and guess what? It's about the Eagles too. Like that video? Why don't you subscribe right down here? That way you're notified whenever we release more videos here on the Eagles Report. It's the fastest growing Eagles channel here on YouTube. Video, subscribe, click them right now. Go ahead, click them. Did you like that video? Thanks for watching, but why don't you click this video right here, because we did it just a couple of days ago, and guess what? it's about the Eagles too. Like that video? Why don't you subscribe right down here? That way you're notified whenever we release more videos here on the Eagles Report. It's the fastest growing Eagles channel here on YouTube. Video, subscribe, click them right now. Go ahead, click them.